Nev, how are you, man? We were just talking about you. I'm just kidding. We weren't. But I did not get the Lego set from the Probe Droid yet. Isn't it like insanely difficult to build? The Probe Droid set? I don't know. I don't know if we've gotten any Legos this year for the kids. I'm not sure about that just yet. Want to talk about it? No! No, he's not. Are you kidding me? Is this... So, hold on. For those of you who are not... Oh, crap. Nev. I gotta get headphones. Give me a second. You called right in the middle of... Sorry, so for those of you who are not following my visibly upset nature, Nev just told me over on the YouTube page that Bob Chapek is out. And Bob Iger is returning. Now, this, I just keep hitting my desk. This is huge news. And very frustrating. All right, Nev, voice chat me, brother. I'm going to hit me up. Let me make sure that my audio is working so that you don't have to. Oh, Nev started the call. Oh, Nev, how are you, sir?
I just saw the news like 5 minutes ago, and the first person I thought of to talk about was you, and it so happens that you're streaming.
Oh my gosh. Hold on. All right, so Nev, let me finish up here. Because now I have something I'm going to have to cut together. So we're going to leave this GAC because I'm probably going to get slaughtered. And that's fine. Let me show you real quick where I'm at, right? Closer to Skiffguard Lando and Bouch Leia. Bouch Leia has everything that she needs, but she's 150 shards away, so I'm not expecting to get her for like another couple weeks. Skiffguard Lando probably by the end of this week, maybe, if RNGesus helps me out. Right? I don't know if there's a sign that we can cross to. I don't know. I definitely don't want to do that. Right? This being this Christmas season, towards the Christmas season. So that's where I'm at. Oh my freaking gosh, Nev.
Really? I know. It's nuts, isn't it?
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, who is Bob Iger? What's the difference between Bob Iger and Bob Chapek?
Bob Iger was CEO, and he stepped down and handed it over to Bob Chapek.
Yes. Now, the rumors have been that Bob Chapek is the one that's cleaning house over at Disney. And it's Bob Chapek that's been going about and saying, we're letting you kind of hang yourself, Kathleen Kennedy, and all of these other Disney peeps, so that we can move you out and figure out how best to move forward.
I mean, I actually think from a shareholder's point of view that it's actually quite simple. Bob Iger had a pretty good grip on who was working under him.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Whereas Bob Chapek, I mean, you remember the leaked Zoom call?
Oh, yes.
The leaked Zoom call where you had heads of departments talking about implementing their own personal agendas within Disney content. That's not a CEO, irregardless of whatever agenda it is. The agenda's irrelevant. The mere fact that Bob Chapek had people underneath him that were implementing their agenda instead of Disney policy is it's a big no-no. And then add on to that, his spat with the governor of Florida. Over the tax status of Disney, and the shareholders are like, well, hang on a minute, that your fight with a politician, which should never, ever, ever have occurred, because you should have just been, your the fiduciary responsibility of the CEO is to make the shareholders money,
Yep.
not get involved in politics. That's why Bob Iger wanted to get involved in politics. That's why Bob Iger stepped down. It's like,
Yeah.
Disney is business. I want to do politics. And, he loosely said it in interviews. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to get out of business and do, but now he's got to come. So yeah, but Bob Iger never seemed to have full control over his executive staff.
You mean Chapek?
Chapek, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
Chapek never seemed to have.
And that's a huge problem. Now, it was Iger who was kind of like the one in charge. Not kind of. He was the one in charge who bought Star Wars, right? He was the one that said, "Hey, Kathleen Kennedy, you go do your thing. We have full faith in you." Right?
No. It wasn't Iger. That was Lucas.
What? Was it?
It was Lucas that wanted Kathleen Kennedy, not Bob Iger.
The maker created Satan.
Mm-hmm.
He created his own devil.
Yeah.
Man. Oh my gosh. This is crazy. Now,
what's even, here's the thing, and this is the nuts thing, is they only just renewed Chapek's contract for 3 years 4 months ago. So they are so Chapek's getting like a huge golden handshake.
Oh, sure.
And let's not forget in Hollywood, the people at the top of the pyramid, they don't fail downwards, they fail upwards.
Yeah, they totally fail up.
The top of the pyramid across the board, they don't fail. Well, they fail, but they fail upwards. So if they fail at one thing, it's like, oh, clearly you're crap at this, but we'll give you a higher position and see if you could do any better.
What if? Can we do some tinfoil hat here for a second?
Oh yeah. Please do some tinfoil hat.
Okay. I would love this. Now, part of the reason why I liked Bob Chapek, okay, is Bob Chapek was, from at least my understanding, he was more about, as far as content goes, just developing good content, right? He was the one that greenlit a lot of these great shows, on Star Wars shows, on Disney Plus. Now, what would it be? What do you think it would be, a good thing or a bad thing if Bob Chapek replaces Kathleen Kennedy?
It can't happen.
Why not?
Because he's being fired from Disney. He's not being demoted. He's being removed. He's been fired from Disney.
True, but Disney is just the umbrella company, right? Not to be confused with the actual umbrella company, but like
what will more than likely happen is he'll just go to another studio.
Sure.
But somebody
Lucasfilm
else
is
will
another
hire
studio.
him. They won't look at his failures and think, ooh, let's maybe not hire him. They'll be like, oh, it's Bob Chapek. A broken clock is still correct twice a day.
Yeah. Oh man.
But it's nuts. Don't get me wrong.
This is huge. Oh my gosh. This is terrifying. Like, this is a very scary thing. But I will say, I'm curious if it might turn out to be a good thing.
Well, it will only turn into a good thing if, when Bob with Bob Iger's return, that he addresses all of the points that the board and the shareholders have had issues with Chapek. So the board and the board and the shareholders and all of those people that sit at the high table, to use a John Wick analogy, all those people that sit at the high table have fired Chapek for reasons.
Sure.
Reasons X, Y, and Z. Bob Iger's come back, and the high table will be like, right, okay, we fired Chapek for reasons X, Y, and Z. You need to rectify these issues.
Yeah.
If Bob Iger doesn't rectify those issues, they'll do the exact same thing to him.
Oh, sure. But Bob Iger,
So he needs to get a grip of his executives. He needs to get a grip of his executives. He needs to stop antagonizing he needs to stop antagonizing the politicians.
Yeah.
And you know, there's no doubt in the back of my mind that there will be a phone call between Bob Iger and the governor of Florida, and it's like, look, all of your concerns will be rectified. You know, there will be, Disney is going to go back to just giving people, a product, because that's what we're good at. No more politics, no more agendas, no more hidden this, hidden that. We're just going to make cartoons, movies, TV shows, theme parks, and merchandise, because, that's what we're good at. But, it's going to be interesting.
So
and you've also got to take into consideration the share prices.
Oh yeah.
There's so much, and it's nuts.
So
they fired. I'm surprised that they didn't fire Kennedy as well.
Oh my gosh, that they should. So
here's the thing. Kennedy will be. I 100% believe Kennedy will be fired when Indiana Jones 5 flops.
It will, yeah.
It will. When that flops, they'll be like, you said this was yours. This was your baby, 100% yours. It's completely and utterly flopped. It hasn't made us money. You've spent way too much in reshoots, and it hasn't made us any money. So, goodbye.
Maybe those tears that Harrison Ford shed when he was on stage weren't tears of happiness. Maybe he was like, oh, she's ruined him. She's ruined the one thing that I was proud of, right? I mean, we don't know, but like, it's just
it was Spielberg and Lucas already wrecked Indiana Jones with the Crystal Skull.
Oh my gosh, yes, they did. That was terrible.
So it was already broken. It was already broken. And let's be honest. Harrison Ford has this obsession with the characters that he plays being killed off. But I'll do it, but you got to kill me off. I'll do it, but you got to kill. He keeps saying that to everybody he does movies with. He did it with Star Wars. I'll come back, but you got to kill me off.
Yeah. So I'm looking at Disney's stock prices, and for YouTube's sake, I'm not a financial person at all. I'm just looking at the last 5 years. So in the last 5 years, it has gone from $102 all the way up to $160, $191 to today. It's at 91.8. So
yeah.
And then, but still, I mean, 91.8. If you were invested in Disney in 2010, that's triple what it was.
Yeah, but here's the thing: the share price isn't the end of the story. You understand what happens when you have shares, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the year, you're supposed to get a nice, big, fat, juicy dividend stake.
Yeah.
Nothing's making money. So the shareholders will have made this decision. The shareholders and the board are going to be making these decisions on what's going back into our pocket.
Yeah.
And if the money, if they're not getting the dividend checks, what's the point in holding the shares?
Yep. And they'll
the value of the shares is irrelevant unless you're actually making money.
Yeah. And they're not.
I mean, look at the last few Disney movies. They're just Pinocchio remake, Lion King remake.
They've all been
a Buzz Lightyear spin-off didn't work. They've got this movie. There's a movie out at the moment. I'm not sure what it's called. Another animated one.
It's called Strange Worlds, and it's coming out.
Strange Worlds.
Yeah, it's coming out soon. And like I was saying at the beginning of the chat, like I'm
going
to see it, right? But that's the thing is people aren't connecting to it. People aren't connecting to some of these things, and so if they're not familiar with it, if they're not interested in it, they're not going to see it. They're not going to make money.
No.
So, man, this is huge news.
This is huge. Yeah, this is huge news. I mean, this is kind of bringing Bob Iger back. The board have probably brought Bob back because it's easier to just bring Iger back than it is to try and get somebody else.
Yeah, because he knows he knows what he's
because he knows the lay of the land. Yeah. Unlike CNN and Warner Brothers, who just brought in completely new people to say, right, okay, sort it out.
Yeah.
And we know what's been happening at CNN. The people with the low rating shows have been getting fired.
Yeah.
And what's been happening at Warner Brothers is the same thing. He's been like, okay, we cancel the stuff that is probably not going to make us money.
Yeah. Now, here's the other thing too. It's not just getting kicked. It's people who are also, not just who have low incomes, but who are dangerous. Who have these ideas. Like I look at, there's a lot of anchors from CNN whose shows are being removed. Because of not just low stats, but they're also typically the ones that have these confrontational points of views, right? And
which channel? Which
well, like on CNN, about? Like a lot of the anchors who've been replaced.
Oh yeah, no, those are pundits and opinion shows. They're not actual. It's not actual news.
No, and I agree. But they're
and the guy is trying to put CNN back as a news channel, not
pundit channel.
He doesn't want he doesn't want CNN to become like MSNBC.
Yeah. And so Solomon in the chat says that it's pretty normal across the year. Lots of people are going through layoffs because it's this productivity, right? It's the same stuff with, like, if you see whether you agree with Elon Musk or not, and I'm not one way or the other. I don't dislike the man. I don't care one way or the other. I will never buy a Tesla. I say that now, but I'm sure that eventually I will. But like, he's going through and he's looking at Twitter and saying, where are we wasting money? What are we spending money on? And these higher execs who aren't getting stuff done or who are doing things that are not productive are getting cut,
Mm-hmm.
and
you've got to get rid of the chaff. You've got to get rid of the chaff.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's super interesting to me to see this. Now, again, when I made the switch from the public sector to back to education, like, that was one of the things the reasons why I did it. I'm like, if I can be a good enough teacher, I'm in the government. As long as I don't hit scandal, I'll be okay, right? But like, it's a scary time, It's kind of like, keep work hard, keep your head down, and just keep after it, But man, this is huge. Now, hopefully, this is the beginning of something bigger, right? I'm hoping that this is a scary time for a short time so that we can kind of like work through this and come out on top, bigger, better, stronger for the experience, As far as Disney goes, this is going to be an interesting. Ooh, man.
I mean, Disney have already, the thing is, Disney have already been making a lot of layoffs at the executive level. So they already have been doing that. Chapek obviously wasn't doing them fast enough, or the people he was bringing in to replace the people he'd let go were of a similar ilk.
Yeah.
Yeah. yeah, it's difficult to see what it's going to be like moving forward. Chapek could look at the likes of Warner Brothers, and he could look at the likes of CNN and go, "Is that what we need? Is that what
Yeah.
we have to do? Do we have to be just brutally honest and let go of the people that are thinking in terms of not making money, but making content for
Yeah.
the very small fraction of a very small demographic as opposed to a larger demographic,
Yeah.
because that's the kicker is if you make a show, what demographic is that show aimed at? And
It should. Yeah.
we talked about this with Andor, didn't we?
Yeah.
I've said on multiple occasions, Andor is not made for kids.
Oh no, not at
Andor
all.
has Andor is not made for kids because it's just too cerebral. And kids just want to see laser sword fights
Yeah.
and good guys versus bad guys. They don't want to have to sit there and try and work out who's the bad guy,
Yeah.
who's the good guy, who's the main character, who am I supposed to be rooting
You
for,
mean
and
Luthen's
who
a
do I
good
want
guy?
the good guy to be? Yeah.
Right?
So, huh?
No, just like you, like I totally get it because like there's a lot of gray in Andor, and it is not meant for a children's audience. I mean, it establishes that right off the bat, like with a brothel scene, right? Even if it had been hinted at that there was a brothel scene, it would still not be kids. But they came right out like this is a house of ill repute, you know.
Mhm.
And by saying that, it's like, all right, well, right off the bat, I'm not sure that I want my kids watching this, you know, and I'm not sure that kids,
Yeah.
at certain levels could or should be watching it. My opinion, you do you, world, or any other viewer who is watching this. But like, it is too cerebral. It is a more advanced show for a different type of audience. But the thing that I've wanted, and I've said this since you and I have been talking for the longest time, what they need to be doing is making some big shows for larger audiences and then smaller shows, lower budget things for smaller audiences, right?
Yes, exactly. You can make something for the smaller demographics, but
Yeah.
the stuff that you make for the smaller demographic has to have a lower budget.
Yeah.
Big budget for the larger encompassing demographic because you want it to be watched by a larger group of people. And then the smaller niche stuff, yeah, sure, do it. By all means, have that extra content, that kind of like indie content. You could refer to it as indie
Yeah.
content. The
Yeah.
indie content is the cheap and cheerful stuff. And
Yeah.
and if it reaches a larger demographic, brilliant, great. You know, that's how you have. I mean, there are lots of indie shows and indie movies that have been made that were done on the cheap, that weren't aimed at a wider demographic, but the stories were so good or so compelling that it just appealed to a wider demographic.
Yeah.
See, that's the kicker. As long as the story's good, more and more people will watch it. If the story's too dull or too mundane or too cerebral then it's like people will switch off.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why it's probably one of the reasons why Cobra Kai did so well. You knew who the good guys were, you knew who the bad guys were, and that was it. And the funky thing, the brilliant thing that has kept Cobra Kai fresh is every season there are tweaks as to who the good guys are and who the bad guys.
Yeah. Ralph Macchio always being the bad guy.
Yes, of course, because he tried to steal his girlfriend, of course,
right?
Yeah,
a thieving jerk.
Exactly, yeah. He sucker punched him.
Yeah.
He sucker punched him on the beach.
Yeah, So Solomon Grundy points out, he says, in the last it feels like the last 3 years has really had more scrutiny from viewers, and those making shows, movies have lost a lot of good people at the higher end of the scale. And I think you're right, Solomon. Like, I think there is so much available, so many different streaming services that like, and they're constantly putting stuff out, new and different things, that they're putting so much out that I feel like they're not spending enough time to make sure that many of these shows are not spending enough time making sure this is a good story, that this is interesting or fun or valuable. Yeah, it's all watered down, and there are shows that are they're all right. They're fun, they're enjoyable, they're easy to watch, but they're the shows that you put on in the background when you got nothing else going on, right? And
here's the thing: you said, I think I would slightly disagree with you in the sense that, like you said, people are too critical. It's created a lot of critical people about their content regarding Star Wars over the I don't actually see that. I would argue that from, say, 2017 until maybe 2020, maybe early 2021, yes, they were putting stuff out that was creating a lot of criticism towards the stuff that they were putting out, and we had that purple period with The Mandalorian. I don't think that that's the case in the last 2 years, though. I think what they're doing is they've just created apathy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I have not watched, right, and this is all Disney content, I have not watched Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I will not watch Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't want to. I have zero interest in watching it. Right?
Yeah.
All of the Marvel Disney, all of the Disney Marvel stuff, the TV shows. I stopped watching all of the TV shows after I think about the third episode of Bucky, the Bucky show.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
the what was it? Captain the Falcon
America,
and the Winter Soldier.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I stopped watching it after that. I'm like, this TV show is not for me. I'll let other people watch it, and that was it. Not watched She-Hulk. I didn't like Loki.
Really?
Because Loki was just weird. I'm watching it and I'm thinking to myself, what's going on here? This is 2012 Loki, not 2020 Loki. But what we got was 2020 Loki. And I'm like, but it's not 2020 Loki. It's 2012
Loki. Yeah.
No, I get we're talking about Loki. We're talking about the Loki from the first Avengers, who was just pure evil.
Yeah.
Right? He hadn't gone through all of the things. He was shown if you remember, in the second or third episode, he was shown a montage of how his character grew over the years, resulting in his death. Right?
But he didn't grow.
But
he himself
didn't experience that. You can't just show. We'll show you a 5-minute montage of the next 5 years, and that's going to change you profoundly. It's like, no, it's not.
But that's a trope in literature, though. I mean, one of the greatest stories told at this time of year, outside of the whole Jesus thing, is the Scrooge.
Is the what?
It's Scrooge, Ebenezer Scrooge's story, and that's the concept. It's the same type of concept. Like, hey, we're giving you
you're talking about A Christmas Carol.
A Christmas Carol, yeah, right. We're giving you one night to fix this all, right, to get this all squared away. It's the same concept. Now, I see what you're saying, and absolutely, I agree.
It doesn't work with science fiction.
Yeah. Well, and I disagree. I think it could work with science fiction, but your point though is
story sucks.
But your point though is it's one of those different strokes for different folks, right? It wasn't something that you were interested in, so you didn't watch it, and I think that there needs to be more of that. Not more of like, we're going to create stuff that people aren't going to watch, because that would be stupid, but more types of different shows that are lower budget, that don't have these vast armies of people needing to get paid, right? That just tell a simple good story. And
Yeah.
they can hit up. I've told you this for years. For years, I am fine with Rian Johnson coming back and doing Star Wars. But the Star Wars that I want Rian Johnson to do is like Animal Planet Star Wars, right? That has nothing to do with the main character of Star Wars, but he's going around, he's doing these weird shows that allow him to be Rian Johnson, right? That allow him to do things that don't affect like Luke and Leia and the whole crew, right? Like I want him to do that's fine. Give him a show. But give him a show that is for Rian Johnson. Don't give him the reins of the most important characters in Star Wars. Let him create his own.
No, no. Ryan Johnson shouldn't be anywhere near an important IP.
No, well,
nowhere near it. No. He shouldn't be anywhere near a big IP. He is on the record saying he does not make movies that everybody enjoys. He's only happy if half the audience likes it and the other half doesn't like it.
No, and I get that.
I'm sorry. If I was the owner of a big studio and I heard a director say that, I would never hire that director because I want to hire a director to try and reach 100% of the. You're not going to please everybody all the time, but you can please some people all of the time.
Yeah,
the other way around. Now, and before you say, Johnson, there are established. I mean, they tried it with Solo.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to bring in an established director, Ron Howard. We all know how successful Ron Howard can be, and more often than not, he's successful.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he didn't have it from the start. He probably could have done a better job if he wasn't having to do reshoots and stuff like that.
Sure.
And it had nothing to do with fatigue. It was, people were like, not sure if I'm going to enjoy this because of, the direction that they thought it was going.
Yeah.
Fan wise. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have watched Solo a couple of times, but it's nothing. I don't look at it and think of it as anything special. And the reason why I look at it and don't think of it anything special is because they had source material and chose not to use it.
Yep.
They have this. It's one of the things that frustrates me so much about Disney is they have all of this source material, right? And they don't use it. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's give them the benefit. Okay, so you don't want to use the source material. Okay, but the source material is good. So why not hire the people that wrote the source material to write you something new? And they didn't do that. They put together a story group of Gen Xers and Zoomers and millennials. And it's like, well, why not go to people with experience?
Yeah.
Go to the authors of the most popular Star Wars books. Go to your Kevin Andersons. Go to your gods. I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Mr. Zahn.
Yes.
You go to. They went to him and said, "Will you write us some more books?" When they should have been,
"Will you write?
Will you write as a movie?"
Yeah.
I mean, he wrote.
He wrote one of the most beloved characters in all of Star Wars.
Little known fact. The studio that owns the rights to Terminator, asked him to, the one with Batman.
Yeah.
What's his name? The actor that played Terminator. What's the guy that did John Connor into? No, Terminator. The one that played John Connor in Salvation.
Christian Bale.
Yeah. Timothy Zahn wrote a trilogy for that.
Really?
Yep. They asked him to come up with a trilogy, right? They only did the middle movie though.
Yeah.
He wrote. He had 3 stories, a trilogy.
Yeah.
and the studio just didn't like the way that he was going to end the trilogy.
Yeah.
So they took the middle one and did their little bit, did their tweaking here and there. I sent you that. You remember I sent you the link to the interview
Yeah.
that he did recently.
Yeah.
That was it was such an exquisite interview. But he was asked about that,
Yeah.
he was asked about that, and he's like, yeah, we did this and we did that, because he was talking, he was talking about how George Lucas had conversations with him about some of the things that he was doing in his original trilogy, because Jorah Cabroth, the clone, the mad Jedi wizard, you know who that was originally supposed to be, don't you?
Who?
It was Timothy Zahn wanted that to be a clone of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
A mad Obi-Wan Kenobi. That would have been freaking awesome.
That would have been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Whew.
Yeah.
That would have been dope.
But there are just. I mean, I think it's weird. Disney have treated authors, Star Wars authors, with such disrespect.
Yeah, horrible.
Over, authors from the last 20. I mean, Alan Dean Foster.
Yeah.
Had to take Disney to court
to get
for royalties, just to get paid.
Yeah.
That's how disrespectful they treat.
And what's funny about that story is, like, if you read the interviews during it, like, he was talking about, like, look, I don't want to do this. I don't want to take Disney to court, but they owe me money. Yeah. And it's unfortunate, right? Solomon points out, he's like, look, he says the High Republic has had a ton of stuff recently, and it just doesn't tickle his fancy, and that's it's true. Like, I've read a lot of the High Republic stuff, and, like, it's not bad. Like, a lot of it's not bad writing. It's just not good. It's just not as epic as I think it could be.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, they're building to a lot of the stuff that might do that might pull out some of that epicness or add some of that epicness to it, but, like, it's just so hard to get into with
what they need to do. They need to. I might tweet this to Bob Iger. I might tweet this to Bob Iger tomorrow, but Bob Iger needs to take all, and I do mean all of it, all the source material, and just start animating it.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
We're not going to get a live action original Thrawn trilogy. We're not going to get a Jedi Academy trilogy. We're not going to get any of those books made into live action. It's not going to happen. They're not going to do it because they're stingy and they don't want to give the fraction of a percent in royalties to Lucas.
Yeah.
Because they just don't want to.
Yeah.
But if they started turning those books, into
cartoons,
animated films, animated series,
they would get watched.
You've got a guaranteed viewership of the people that read those books.
Yep.
That's guaranteed. If they said, oh, we're going to do an animated version of the Thrawn trilogy, I'm going to watch it, all of it.
Oh, sure.
And I'm going to watch it over and over again.
Yeah.
Right. And so is everybody else that's read those books.
Yeah.
That's your so that's your guaranteed viewership.
Yep.
And then everybody, all of the Disney stans, and all of the newer, that they'll watch it anyway.
Yeah. No, I
because
agree.
It's there. Because you've got to remember, all of those people will watch it because nothing is bad. So the people that look at the Star Wars that is subpar or average, and they call it the best Star Wars ever.
Yeah.
It's not the best Star Wars ever. It's average.
Yeah.
Right. There's nothing wrong with average, but we want more. So everybody that reads the books watches it. All of the people that think the average stuff is incredible watch it, and your normies watch it because it's animated, right? So there you go. Lots of people watching it. A product that lots of people will watch.
No, I keep going.
Yeah. So and that's what Chapek needs to do. You know, it's cheap. It's cheap, good product. That's what they need to come up with product that is cheaper than what they're currently making. They can't be spending hundreds of millions on things that aren't going to see a return.
No.
So why not just spend a couple of million?
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I 100% agree.
Anyway,
it
is getting late, mate.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Nev, thank you for joining us and dropping this bombshell on me.
Breaking news, as and if it happens.
Breaking news, as and if it happens. We don't get breaking news on this channel very often, but man, I'm glad that we were able to talk about this because this is huge,
explosive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious to see where this goes. So let me know if Bob Chapek responds to you. He hasn't been taking my calls, or Bob Iger hasn't either. But we got into a spat a while ago, and I don't see him calling me back anytime soon.
Don't see him calling you back anytime soon.
No. Anyways, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna wrap things up. Thank you for joining with us tonight. A lot longer than we anticipated. I'm gonna cut this up, and especially this section of the whole Bob Iger and Bob Chapek, because
the Bob Iger thing. Yeah,
this is huge. This is huge news. And Nev, as always,
don't forget to make a clickbait title.
I will make Bob Chapek kicks Bob Iger, or Bob Iger kicks Bob Chapek out over politics. I don't know. I'll think of something very clickbaity.
Think of something clickbaity.
Yeah. But as always, guys, thanks for joining us. I hope you guys have a great week. Is this the last week of GAC for the month?
I have no idea, mate. I don't keep track of it anymore.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyways, if it is, then we'll see you next week. If it's not, we'll see you later this week, and we'll definitely see you next week for the analyzing Andor. Right?
Yeah.
Very excited for that. Anyways, thanks for joining us, guys. I will go through Solomon. I'll go through and I'll get those. I'll give them a look. Have a great night, great week. This has been Thaddeus and Nev for Going Nerdy. And as always, like, subscribe, and share. And remember to smile and stay nerdy, my friends.